Inside the phone in your pocket is a magnet smaller than a fingernail. It's in your earbuds, your laptop, your car, and the most advanced fighter jet ever built. It's made from a metal most people can't name, and almost every gram of it, anywhere on Earth, was refined in a single country. That country is China. Not because these metals are buried only there. They're scattered across the planet, including under California and Australia. China's grip isn't on the rock. It's on what happens after you dig it up. Roughly 9 out of every 10 of these metals are processed, separated, and turned into usable material by Chinese factories. The same military that depends on them for missiles, radar, and stealth jets buys them from the very same supply chain as your headphones. Here's the strange part. These elements aren't actually rare. The name is a 400-year-old accident. The world could mine them almost anywhere, and for a while it did. America was once the global leader. Then it walked away and let one country quietly take control of the metals that make modern life run. This is the story of how that happened and why, decades later, no one has been able to undo it. Because when one nation refines the magnets inside everything you own, it doesn't need an army to make the world flinch. It just needs to say no. They're called the rare earth elements, 17 metals clustered near the bottom of the periodic table, with names like neodymium, dysprosium, and praseodymium. Pull one out and it looks like dull gray scrap, but 4 of them share a single extraordinary trick. Forge them into an alloy and you get the strongest permanent magnets ever discovered. A magnet the size of a sugar cube can lift 1,000 times its own weight, and it never needs power to do it. That property is the quiet engine of the modern world, the tiny motor that makes your phone vibrate. Rare earth magnet, the speakers in your earbuds, the focus motor in your camera, the hard drive storing your photos, all of them. Now scale up. A single electric car motor can hold more than 1 kilogram of these magnets. One large wind turbine needs around 2 tons of them. An MRI scanner, a guided missile, a drone, a robotic arm, each one depends on this handful of metals to turn electricity into motion. The F-35 fighter contains roughly 400 kilograms of rare earth material. Add it together and a pattern appears. Almost everything that spins, listens, scans, or flies in the 21st century has one of these magnets at its heart. They are invisible, unbranded, and absolutely everywhere, which means whoever controls their supply quietly controls a slice of nearly every industry on Earth. So if these metals are scattered worldwide, why does one country hold the supply? The answer is that mining was never the hard part. Separating them is. Rare earth elements don't come out of the ground sorted. They're locked together in the same ore, chemically almost identical, bound to each other so tightly that pulling them apart is one of the ugliest jobs in industrial chemistry. To isolate a single pure element, refineries push the ore through a chain of chemical baths, sometimes hundreds of stages in a row, using rivers of acid and solvent. What comes out the other end includes thorium, a radioactive waste that has to be stored for centuries. This is the part the rest of the world chose to give away. In the 1980s, the United States actually led the industry, anchored by a single mine in the California desert called Mountain Pass. But the refining was filthy, the waste was dangerous, and environmental rules made it expensive. China was willing to do it cheaply and absorb the pollution. So the West kept the clean parts, the design and the products, and shipped the dirty chemistry overseas. Over 30 years, China didn't just buy market share. It built the refineries, trained the chemists, perfected the process, and let everyone else's plants close. By the time the world noticed, the knowledge and the infrastructure lived in one place. The mine in California was still digging and sending its rock to China to be turned into anything useful. For a long time, none of this felt dangerous. It was just a supply chain. Then, in 2010, the world got a warning. A fishing boat collision near a chain of disputed islands sparked a standoff between China and Japan. Within weeks, shipments of rare earths to Japanese factories slowed to a trickle. Prices for some of these metals shot up nearly tenfold. Japan, home to some of the planet's most advanced electronics, suddenly couldn't reliably get the raw material its industry was built on. The point landed instantly. This wasn't only about magnets, it was leverage. It shouldn't have been a surprise. Decades earlier, China's leader Deng Xiaoping had reportedly said, "The Middle East has oil, China has rare earths." He understood what he was holding before most of the world did. In the years since, the message has only sharpened. China has placed export controls on related materials, gallium, germanium, and eventually the rare earth magnets themselves, sometimes requiring special licenses to send them abroad. Each restriction sends buyers scrambling and prices lurching. Companies that had taken the supply for granted suddenly found themselves rationing a metal they once ordered as easily as screws. No shots are fired. No blockade is announced. A government simply slows the paperwork, and factories on the other side of the planet start counting their remaining stock. That is what a real choke point looks like. Not a wall, but a valve, and only one hand is on it. So why doesn't everyone just build their own refineries? Because the thing China actually owns isn't the ore. It's 30 years of know-how, infrastructure, and a tolerance for toxic waste that no one else rushed to match. The race to catch up is finally on. That same California mine, Mountain Pass, has reopened and is building its own separation plants on American soil. In Australia, a company called Linus mines rare earths and refines them in Malaysia, the largest source outside China. Governments are pouring billions into new projects and stockpiles, treating these metals the way they once treated oil reserves. But standing up a rare earth supply chain is brutally slow. A new mine can take a decade to permit and open. A refinery has to master that 100-stage chemistry, find somewhere to bury the radioactive waste, and survive the moment China can simply lower its prices and make every competitor unprofitable overnight. That tactic has crushed Western projects before. There's a final twist. Almost none of these metals are recycled. Well under 1% are recovered from old phones and motors. So nearly every magnet ever made still traces back to fresh ore, and most of that still flows through one country's factories. The world is trying to buy its way out. It's spending fortunes and years to rebuild what it gave away in a single generation. And until it does, the choke point holds. Pick up your phone again. Somewhere inside it, that fingernail-sized magnet is doing its silent job, the same as the one in your car, your headphones, and the hardware your country calls essential to its defense. None of it announces itself. None of it carries a label saying where it came from or who refined it. That's what makes this story different from oil. You can see an oil tanker. You can picture a pipeline. But the rare earth supply chain is invisible. Buried inside products, ground into magnets too small to notice, controlled by chemistry most people will never see. It runs underneath the entire modern economy, and almost no one knows it's there. One country figured that out early. It didn't corner the metal because the metal was scarce. It cornered the patience, the pollution, and the process that turns gray rock into the thing that makes machines move. The rest of the world was happy to look away, right up until the moment it couldn't. So the next time a phone buzzes in your pocket, or an electric car pulls away in silence, remember what's spinning inside it and how far the thread runs from your hand to a single set of factories on the other side of the world. It was never really about the metal. It was about who was willing to do the dirty work while everyone else forgot it needed doing. And that question is still wide open.